Alright, we're audible.
Hello, everyone, and
welcome.
welcome back to D&D&D&D&D campaign number 1, Under Locks and Keys. Austin, don't forget to be in the Roll20 for music.
Didn't you check earlier?
Because I forgot.
You're the DM. You can't forget things.
Yeah, we've only been doing this for 100+ episodes. But
Not this one.
Well,
not this campaign, true, but anyways. When we last left off, the party made their way into the Underdark beneath Sherwood Forest in hopes of finding the dark elf city of Ostoliante, where the Atlantean Forgecast Pistol is said to be under the protection of the Dark Elves. The very same Dark Elves, in fact, that abandoned young Ivaebhin on the surface decades ago. Making their way down into the tunnels, passing through glowing fungi and mined veins of mana, the party fought off a Dark Elf patrol that had come into conflict with a badger that had come under mutation from the nearby mana ore. No idea how a badger got exposed to that. The only way a badger would willingly stay there and do that was if someone had magically coerced them to do so, but that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, who would do that? Who would do something so foolish just to force
No
a
idea.
poor bastard to sit near mana like that?
It's just so weird.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway.
Wild magic.
Chasing off the mutant and killing off the Dark Elves, the party, using a precious revival, brought the captain of that patrol back to life. Where, on getting to know the Dark Elf a bit better through her thinly veiled hostility and bashing of the party and its men, the party, more accurately, Paul, through showing kindness to the vulnerable woman, convinced her to lead them to the city of Ostoliante and get them past the guards at its gates without setting off any alarms. However, she has promised that once the party is in Ostoliante proper, she will likely abscond and, from the sounds of it, will let her goddess do with her as she wishes for her perceived betrayal of her people and her goddess.
mm-hmm.
As you guys descend through the Underdark, Ivaebhin, unconscious, slung over, I believe, Paul, you were the one carrying him?
Who?
Ivaebhin.
Oh, yeah.
It was either you or Greylog. I was trying to remember which.
Yeah, no, I got him around.
Okay. So, as you guys make your way down into the Underdark, Ivaebhin, on Paul's shoulder, begins to stir and slowly wake up. Ivaebhin, from your perspective, you got a brief glimpse of your mother who had somehow found you in the tunnels before everything faded to black. And as you come to, you realize that you're hoisted over Paul's shoulder, who is astride his magical elk, and are making your way down deeper into the tunnels, your dark vision allowing you vision of the surroundings. Behind you, you can see Flower and Fall kind of hovering ambiently towards the back of the group.
I thought they were glamored.
True, but that hovering is what they're actually doing. But you do still recognize their glamour, so you at least know who they are. And from the looks of the surroundings and your party members, the conflict had not escalated, although the exact specifics of the situation you are ignorant to. Paul, you can feel Ivaebhin begin to wake up on your shoulder.
What happened?
Passed out.
like a little
Hey.
child.
Thanks. I hadn't noticed.
Wow. We are on our way to the city.
I'm just gonna go on record and say that it was a complete waste of time doing this glamour work just to come down here with the other dark elves.
Well, we had to get out of the city somehow to be able to come back. Yes? You're a wanted man, after all.
How do you know where we're going, by the way? Because I was the one leading us down here.
Man.
We're not following you. We're following, and Asari is gonna point to the now alive.
Yeah,
Wasn't she like a sergeant or
Ivaebhin
something?
knows that they were brought back.
Yeah, but he didn't know that they were being led by her, did he?
No, not yet.
Yeah, no, that's what she is trying to say, is that they're being led by her. Which is why we know where we're going.
Are you sure they're reliable?
I don't think she has much of a choice.
And she was
No.
more reliable than your unconscious butt.
Hey,
He's the one that fainted. Or if he's going to be a guide, he can't just faint on us.
nobody's perfect, love.
Is he trying to get shanked?
I mean,
Just ignore him. He's just.
Ivaebhin's
You
just.
two got in a fight, and
Ivaebhin's-
he's still mulling over it. He's fine. If you have a problem,
Ivaebhin's just gonna be like ignoring that.
yeah.
For now, she.
That's what Asari was going to suggest.
For now, she doesn't have much of a choice, but she'll certainly have a lot more
Hmm.
choices once we're around more of our fellows.
Hmm. Well, then I suggest that we quickly get what we need and quickly get out.
Is the dark elf within hearing of us?
Most likely, and yeah, Ivaebhin, as you kind of take a look around, still hoisted over the paladin's shoulder, you can see glimpses of the woman up ahead, leading the group. She's just narrowly out of immediate visual, but you can see her as you pass through turns and corners. She's maintaining a pace
Ivaebhin's going to call ahead. What exactly is the plan you made with them?
Suppose you're awake then. We'll be leading you in as my prisoners. We'll say you killed the patrol and that I was the only survivor, which is technically true, so even if there's an inquisitor there, it won't be a lie. And once you're in the city, that'll get you past the gates, which will be the hardest part. And once we're in the city proper, you're on your own. I'll make my way into the lower districts, and Arachne may do with me as she wishes, and you may do as you wish from there.
And Ivaebhin inside to see if that is really their intention.
Make an insight check.
Just for funsies, would I know what an Inquisitor is?
Make a history check.
Cool.
That's the inside. I'm actually decent at that. +2. Could be worse. It's gonna be a 17.
Okay. And Asari, your history?
Rip.
All right, well, we'll do Ivaebhin's first then. Ivaebhin, as you can't really see her well enough to read her face. Again, her back is to you and she's a bit ahead of you. But just from tone of voice and internal logic, you ration out that she's most likely telling the truth. She seems while you don't know the context of why, and it does strike you as odd, she does seem, at least to the best of your knowledge, genuine in that she's getting you into the city past what would be one of the more difficult obstacles. And then once you're past that, she'll simply leave you to your devices. And you do detect a small note of depression and monotonous despair in her tone as she simply acknowledges that she will let whatever happens to her once she leaves your company. From her tone, you don't exactly, I don't imagine, feel much sympathy for her, but you do pick up the implication that if she does not die by natural means, she will likely seek it out on her own.
So, is there anything that he can remember from his short time there that would indicate why she'd be feeling like this from what has happened?
Make a history check. And actually, before you make that history check, make me a wisdom save first.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, because I was thinking maybe
17.
disadvantage. All right, you succeed the save. Make me a history check. Basically, if you had failed the save, you would have had disadvantage on this, but now it's just a flat roll.
The history roll?
Yeah, history check.
You know what? We need information. I'm using inspiration.
All right.
It's going to be a 17.
Okay. By your knowledge, you know that the Dark Elves, in general, but you especially, from what little snippets of your childhood have been flashing back to you during your time in the tunnels, you do recall a lot of the Dark Elves, especially in the area of Ostoliante where you lived with your mother, tend to be very tied into their cultural upbringing, which, of course, teaches them that their goddess is Arachne, goddess of spiders. Although, as mentioned earlier, calling her a true goddess is a bit of a stretch, but she is revered as one by the Dark Elves nonetheless. And to that end, the Dark Elves believe that a lot of what they do, the good and the bad, is divine right given to them by Arachne. And there isn't necessarily no backing to that. You have heard stories, although how true they are is, of course, left to personal interpretation. But you have heard stories that there have been historical periods where if the Dark Elves of Ostoliante go against what Arachne tells them to do, they lose their magic and have to start obeying Arachne quickly or risk being vulnerable to the surrounding Underdark. You've even heard stories that in the event of disobedience from the Dark Elves, Arachne will basically sick the rest of the Underdark on them until they repent, essentially. So there's not necessarily no backing for their loyalty, although the true scope of it is up to personal interpretation.
So what does that have to do with her situation right now?
Basically, because of their loyalty to Arachne and all that, there is some precedent for the fact that she sees it as she has already failed by failing to kill you, and also by from what she would consider actively betraying her goddess and her people. She sees it as Arachne is going to punish her, and the extent of that punishment is simply up to the goddess to decide. As far as she's concerned, she is a dead woman walking if she's lucky. It's possible that Arachne will torture her, that the Underdark creatures will be sent to maul her into an agonizing death. But again, you don't know what's driving her to help you in spite of those fears. But yeah, basically from what you can gather, her helping you is not only essentially being a traitor to her people, but is sacrilegious to her goddess, who is known for punishing the Dark Elves.
So she hates that she lost and is helping us.
Or rather, she's worried that Arachne does and is worried about what comes next. But whatever's motivating her to help you in spite of that seems to have overridden that instinct. You, of course, recall that she seemed very genuine when she said she would rather you just kill her than revive her after her failure. So it's possible that also contributes.
I get it. Ivaebhin's going to say, you lose one fight, and suddenly that makes you the pariah of all Dark Elves. Is that how it works?
Assuming anyone finds out about it, we're not exactly known for leaving survivors, so I'm in a very unfortunate situation of being one of the few people to lose a fight down here and live to tell about it. You can imagine how that will look to my sisters. I don't know whether it was...
Hello?
So, there you are. I don't know whether it was some form of kindness or some form of spite that motivated you to revive me, but as far as my sisters are concerned, they will believe that I fled the fight cowardly. And as a result, indeed, I will be a pariah. While our little plan here will spare me that, the goddess will know, and likely the priests and inquisitors will find out shortly.
How do you know that this isn't what your goddess intended from the start?
She, you
How
can
do you
see...
know that your deal with the Boomergangers isn't in fact already going against them? You are making a deal with surface dwellers, after all.
You can see her briefly kind of shaking her head as she turns a corner in the tunnels, and all of you are keeping up with her. I imagine this is somewhat foreign to Sunbloods, but our goddess takes a personal interest in our affairs. She lets us know whenever we have failed her or misunderstood her will, and will not hesitate to take our gifts away should we fail her.
Yeah, I know. One of the few things I remember from down here are the stories of the times that this goddess left their worshippers to basically be hunted until they decided to fall back in line.
Indeed. And given that our gifts are more than functional, after all, I was able to plunge the battlefield into darkness during our little skirmish, our deal with the Boomergangers is clearly what Lady Arachne intends.
Or maybe fixing it can't be done by taking away your powers. After all, that would leave you pretty defenseless to the various weapons that they have. And if Arachne wants them out of here, that wouldn't serve that purpose, now would it?
Perhaps. If I live to tell the tale, we'll see who ends up right in the end. I can only hope her judgment on me personally is a merciful one.
Yeah. I'll say, probably best to let them decide and don't decide for them.
That's the plan for now.
Are you sure? Or was the plan to find the ruin that you think is coming to you?
I think your mic is picking up your breathing.
I'll see what becomes of the city with your intrusion in it, and decide from there. If you bring the calamity and ruin that surface dwellers tend to leave in their wake, then I will know the extent of my failure, and ensure that I live long enough to suffer it before I join Lady Arachne. But if you're telling the truth, that you simply intend to sabotage our relationship with the Boomergangers but bring us no further harm, then I can only hope that I can work off my debt to her ladyship. And I must be alive and intact in order to do such a thing.
Remember the story of Arachne correctly? Didn't they basically... I can't remember, weren't they the one who, said that they were, more beautiful than the goddesses, and then the goddess goddesses punished her for it, her hubris?
Not necessarily more beautiful. According to most legends, Arachne was a weaver who claimed to be a more talented artist than the goddess Athena, who in this context is a Perusian goddess. However, when Athena showed up to challenge that claim, Arachne actually proved it. She weaved a better art piece faster than Athena could. However, in doing so, Arachne's art piece was depicting all of the failings of the gods, all of the times they made a mistake or embarrassed themselves, all of the terrible things they had done in the past. Basically, a tapestry mocking the gods actively. Between that act of sacrilege and the humiliation of being bested by a mortal, Athena cursed her into being a spider. However, she had second thoughts and felt a bit guilty afterwards, so she ensured that all spiders could continue to weave beautiful tapestries. So while Arachne may have lost her human form, she still could pursue the art she was so passionate and legitimately skilled in.
So Arachne's crime was being impetuous, basically.
Yeah, it wasn't enough to best Athena in the realm of arts. It was she also wanted to insult her in the process of doing so.
I find it so funny that the Dark Elves worship a person whose claim to fame was someone who wasn't content to simply one-up a god. They had to insult them, too.
You can hear some slight hissing and rasping from the path ahead, as you can tell that definitely struck a bit of a nerve. And the Sunblood gods simply couldn't handle their failings being pointed out to them. The only one showing any hubris there was the goddess herself. Your goddess.
Sometimes I wonder, he's just going to kind of say, not really to anyone in particular, but just aloud, I wonder if it would be better or worse for her if I didn't have this glamour on.
Also, welcome to the table, Flower and Fall. You guys are just heading down into the Underdark.
And I got a quick question, Matt.
What's that?
Would I know, like, what I have seen, like, depictions of what Arachne looks like?
Make a religion check. And assuming you're available, sorry, what did you get for your history roll earlier?
Hi. Originally I rolled a 2, so it was 6. And then I remembered that I had inspiration. So I re-rolled, and I got a 13.
Okay. You are familiar with the concept of an inquisitor. An inquisitor is typically an officer of the military sect of a local religion who will essentially ensure that everyone is following the quote-unquote appropriate religious beliefs and punish those who are failing to do so. Although punishments range from anything from simply killing them, some will make a public spectacle of their torture, others will simply remove any paraphernalia of an opposing religion and essentially ensure that theirs is the only option.
I know that they are strictly for Arachne.
You don't know enough about the Dark Elf Inquisitors themselves. Britannia was, for obvious reasons, a little bit cautious about how much they said about the Inquisitors. However, I will say you've heard rumors that the Dark Elf Inquisitors are particularly powerful given how dominant their religion is in their society, to the point where, and again, this is just local legend you've heard, rumors and whispers and that sort of thing, that the Dark Elf Inquisitors of Arachne have been blessed by the goddess herself to always know when they hear a lie.
And whether or not that's true is just pure speculation for me.
Yeah, you've never met a Dark Elf Inquisitor, let alone, like, gotten the chance to confirm if they have that ability or not.
Interesting. Okay.
And Greylog, what'd you get for religion?
Not good. That's a simple 10.
Considering that, again, as mentioned, she is not necessarily a true goddess in the traditional sense, you have not seen depictions of her. In fact, you've not even really heard the name before now, although judging from Ivaebhin's conversation with her, worship of her is pretty well known among the Dark Elves, so by your reckoning, perhaps it's simply a religion exclusive to them, and that they're just kind of secretive about it, or perhaps you just knowledge of Arachne slipped your mind. There's a lot of gods and goddesses in the world, after all.
But realistically thinking, there will be depictions of her in the city.
Most likely.
Okay. I can.
So Ivaebhin, I don't think Ivaebhin kind of thinks aloud now that he actually gets to talk to a dark elf for the first time in probably 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I don't get is where did I don't get from where that story where the hatred of men comes from.
You can hear a little bit of...
Most of the problems that Arachne had was with another woman.
You can hear a little bit of a chuckle from the dark elf ahead. As much as we may despise the Sunblood goddess of wisdom for her hubris and her punishment of her ladyship over simply being bested in the arts, we can acknowledge some of her teachings. Her position as a goddess of wisdom may not be fully deserved, but she does exemplify some traits of it, and we show her a respect nonetheless. And I don't know if you've ever paid it much mind, Sunblood, but the gods on the surface tend to be somewhat dismissive of our ladyships, simply by dint of the fact that they are women. So we thought it most appropriate that their power, wisdom, and due respect be paid. The ladyships that rule us and created us are some of the smartest, most powerful, and wisest of their kin. Our elder, who leads us to greatness, was the smartest, wisest, and most powerful of her brothers. And yet, despite all of that, if you look on the surface, it is always men in positions of power, always men fighting on the battlefields, always men respected as the heroes of the stories. The women are relegated to antagonistic roles or mere trophies to be won.
So you decided to stoop to the same level on the other extreme.
As you know, her ladyship would punish us if we were doing anything that was undeserved.
What if you're doing something that they just don't give a shit about?
Then I think the fact that she does not care for them, to us says the same thing as if she actively hated them.
Maybe they're just happy as long as there's people to worship them and make them actually important.
She doesn't respond to this, although, again, given that you can't see her face, you can't tell if it's just that she doesn't have a response to it and it's focusing, or if she's just actively not responding out of spite.
By the way, you said that the woman who's been making this deal, you said she lost a son at one point.
Indeed. House Estili had to endure the tragic loss of their son and patriarch almost within only a few months of each other at most.
I'm surprised you even found the... hang on, I'm trying to think. I'm surprised you'd use the term tragic. From what I understand, you'd be celebrating that result.
We respect any man that knows their place in our society and is capable of fulfilling it. After all, how else would we have the delicious food that sits on our plates? How else would we wear the beautiful clothes that grace our bodies? How else would we have children to continue our bloodlines?
How long ago was this?
As I recall, back when House Ostili was still a lesser house of Ostoliante, the 20th, I believe, they joined the Greater House Council about 11 years ago. So, by my reckoning, her losses, which happened just before she joined the council, would have been probably 11 or 12 years ago, give or take. Although, of course, I may be remembering incorrectly. I didn't pay House Ostili much mind myself until they joined the Greater House Council.
Oh, Matthew.
What's that?
We established that Ivaebhin was abandoned about 15 years ago, right?
Yeah. But she did mention she may be misremembering.
Okay. So basically, it sounds like it could be within the margin of error.
Mm-hmm. So, while she may have lost the men of her household, the fact that she elevated herself into the Greater House Council shows a proper ability to recover from such tragedy and try to make her people and city better for it.
Is there any word on how it happened?
From what I understand, an illness struck the house and claimed her husband and son. Her son always had something of a weak constitution, and from what I hear, the loss of their son and having whatever illness took him himself weakened her husband enough to claim him as well.
So she claimed I got sick. He just says under his breath.
Mm-hmm.
So that's her story, huh?
Anything from anyone
Oh,
before?
no, he said that part out loud.
Oh, okay.
The part where he said that's her story.
The dark elf woman does not respond to that. Although it could just be that she either didn't hear you or just wasn't paying it much mind. But
Did you
after
know
a
that
moment,
there's a story on the surface that around that same time, a young dark elf boy was found wandering the forest.
it's not unheard of. Some of the royal houses like to keep an eye out on things of that nature. And it's also possible, given House Ostili's odd fascination with Sunblood goings-on, that the boy was simply sent to gather more trophies to decorate their fortress with, and wandered off, got lost, captured by Sunbloods.
Do you know how old they say that her son was when he died?
Do tell.
No, he was asking her.
Okay. After a moment of pause, where she realizes that was more of a directed question than an open one, she pauses for a while, and again, I'm not certain. I'm not exactly privy to all of the political goings-on, but
Would you say about 5 would be accurate?
The way I'd heard the story, they would have been about possibly as young as 5, although I've heard some say about as old as 9.
About the same age as the boy they found in the forest.
Well, Sunbloods have always had a difficult time identifying elf ages, but
He was found by other elves, different type of elves, but other elves nonetheless.
she gives another one of those, like, low hisses that kind of bounces and echoes through the tunnel.
Have the houses ever been known to do away with members they don't like?
Of course, it's tradition in Ostoliante.
Especially if they happen to be born male, I'd imagine.
The males are typically kept around to serve their purposes. It is actually typically the women of the houses that suffer the more violent ends.
I'm sure, unless they don't serve their purposes.
Perhaps, but I don't imagine that a noble lady would dirty her hands in such a matter. More than likely, she would have called somebody to do it for her.
Maybe. It is just a story, after all.
Of course. But if you truly intend to sabotage Ostoliante's alliance with the Boomer Gangers, perhaps you will have a chance to ask her yourself. I'm sure she will not begrudge you the insinuation.
Let's just say I might be privy to some information. That might help our case against her.
Does anyone have anything they would like to say or do before she leads you to Ostoliante?
Oh, for you to get there.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get there. Ivaebhin's got important shit there.
Flower Fall, Paul?
He's got somebody he's got to find.
Sorry, anything? All right. Okay. All right.
Hang on. There was one more thing
Go for it.
that I just made myself think of.
Go for it.
You said that there were some surface dwellers taken to the prison.
Indeed.
Where is this prison?
She pauses for a moment. You don't know whether she's trying to think or simply just debating whether to answer you. But after a bit of a pause, she eventually relents, and they are typically taken to, I believe, the prison at the eastern canyon of the city. Northeastern, specifically.
Is that close to the entrance or far?
It's across the cavern, but it won't take you long to cross. Our city is beautiful, but by her lady's will, it is kept manageably sized.
Is there a specific place in that prison they would keep outsiders?
Not that I'm aware of. Although my job is simply to take them there, what's done with them at that point, beyond the fact that, from what I hear, they are kept alive, is not my business or concern.
Do you know if the surface dwellers were taken there recently? Did you see them at all?
Well, we've been capturing surface dwellers for years now, but we've only increased in our captures since our alliance with the Boomergangers began to be negotiated. But are you looking for a surface dweller in particular, or just interested in what fate awaits you?
Have there been any wood elves taken there
Several. Why, just...
recently?
Yes. Not my patrol, but one of our allies found a wood elf from the surface making their way down.
Did they have a name?
We didn't ask. We didn't care. We don't even know how they got past the door, to be honest. More than likely they used some deceitful illusion to make their way past it. But we found
Well,
them.
Or
And
they
need
were
to get
taken
through that
griddle
door.
pretty easily.
The only thing you need to get through that door... What was the 2 languages on it, Matthew?
Elvish and Undercommon.
All you need to do is know Elvish and Undercommon to get through that door.
Pretty easy.
Easier said than done, Sunblood. Most surface dwellers would consider it distasteful to learn such a beautiful language as Undercommon, and most down here only learn surface languages out of necessity, not out of choice.
Ivaebhin's going to say in Undercommon, or at least to the best of his ability in Undercommon, I guess I'm just special.
You can hear a low, dark chuckle from the tunnel ahead, and she responds in more fluent Undercommon. I guess you are.
No, I would like to mutter under my breath. That's one way to put it in undercommon.
I'll jab Greylog and just be like, what if we talked about speaking other languages is not cool?
Yeah.
She's just playing with you. She's just being a bitch.
But yes, we found a wood elf boy from Sherwood making their way down into the tunnels. Apparently they had similar motivations of sabotaging our diplomacy with the Boomergangers, but we were given orders to ensure that such interruptions were kept out of the way. So we took them to the Claw.
Is that the prison you mentioned?
Indeed.
Was he harmed in any way?
He put up a bit of a fight, but capturing him wasn't particularly difficult. And while normally we are ordered to kill intruders from the surface, we were given orders to ensure that all are captured alive to be interrogated by the Boomergangers. What they did with him, again, is not of particular concern to me.
Ivaebhin just says under his breath again, damn it, you all. Always rushing headlong. Alright, that's all Ivaebhin needed to know.
All right. Flowerfall, anything from you? You're muted if you're talking.
Sorry, no.
Okay. She leads you ahead in the Underdark for a little bit longer. It doesn't take too long. Surprisingly, similar to when Ivaebhin was leading with a dark elf at the head, the tunnels seem a lot less hostile to navigate, although all of you are forced to keep up a somewhat brisk pace, as while she's not rushing ahead to the point where you're concerned with potential escape, she is maintaining a bit of a distance from you, so you have to make sure you're meeting her pace perfectly or risk her simply wandering ahead of you and you getting lost. But before long...
By the way, Paul did put Ivaebhin down by now, right?
Do you, Paul?
I mean, Did Ivaebhin want down? Because Paul never.
So wait, hang on. Is Ivaebhin just being? Has Paul just been holding Ivaebhin the whole time?
If you didn't like ask him to come down or like try to go down yourself,
Ivaebhin's just
no.
gonna look at Paul like,
He's just like,
Paul, are you going to put me down at some point?
I mean, can you walk?
Yes. I just had a little episode. I'm not crippled.
Yeah. Well, if you want down, you can get down.
Ivaebhin, I guess Ivaebhin will get down.
All right. Paul briefly assists you so that you don't fall straight from his shoulder off the elk, but you're helped down and are, after a little bit of stumbling to find your footing, are able to keep pace with the group on foot.
I just had the funniest fucking image of like a giant version of Paul, like puppy moving him, like you move a puppy.
Yeah.
It just like went through my head.
All right. After about another 20 minutes of walking, the tunnels begin to gradually become less winding and labyrinthian. And the dark elf woman speaks up ahead. All right. We're about to come up to the gates. Everyone stay behind me and at least act like prisoners.
Oh no, we've invested in combat. However, shall we be?
Ah, rats foiled again.
Oh, how have we gone so wrong?
Very funny.
I'm very cross.
She finally pauses in her walking, her arms crossed impatiently, as all of you finally get to keep pace behind
Yes,
her
that's
directly.
correct.
And she gestures to you, Paul, and you may keep the animal, but get down.
I guess I'll proceed
Dobby.
to get down.
All right. Weapons sheathed, and unless you're going to take this seriously, mouth shut. If you see an inquisitor, don't say anything. Let me do the talking.
You don't hurt us anymore, you brute!
Assuming you all do as she says, more or less,
I love you, Matthew.
she continues to walk forward, a little slower now to allow you all to easier keep pace with her. And
you love me.
she draws her blade and crossbow, not directing them at you, but just keeping them at hand to, again, keep up the charade of having bested you in combat. And you are all led down a downwards tunnel. And it's one of those things where after you've been in the Underdark for as long as you guys have, you start to wonder how much further down you could possibly go. But eventually you start to see some light. For those of you without dark vision, the only light you've gotten that wasn't from torchlight. And it makes it a bit easier to fall behind and gravitate into the path a bit. And while the captain still looks a little irritable, she does kind of flick her head over her shoulder and... Not my ideal circumstances, but I suppose welcome to Ostoliante.
Does the city live up to the hype?
Let's find out. As you all exit out the mouth of a tunnel, it's less that you exit out the mouth of it and more you reach it as you see a pair of wrought iron gate blocking your way forward with a dark elf in a similar garb to the captain herself, and what you can immediately recognize from the weapon slung over their shoulder as a boomerganger. The two approach with hands up as the captain steps forward with all of you behind her. And the dark elf speaks up first, speaking in Undercommon, so only those of you able to speak Undercommon understand what's being said. Captain, where's the rest of your patrol? Lost. We found a monster in the tunnels, but managed to chase it away. These are the only survivors. A surface caravan. The other guard kind of looks over all of you for a moment and looks back to her. The cart of supplies? And the captain gives a smile and a shrug. Destroyed by the monster, I'm afraid, and most of the goods consumed. But we imagine their equipment will be more than sufficient to turn in for a bounty. The dark elf gives a bow and turns their attention to the boomerganger, who steps forward next. And this one speaks in common, so all of you can understand what he's saying. Surface dwellers, have you interrogated them? Not yet. I assumed that was to be your job, as agreed. But you're sure they're surface dwellers? Indeed. Sherwood Forest. The boomerganger kind of tilts their head and looks over all of you before their eyes settle on Flower and Fall at the back. You two, children. Did you pass any caravans on the way here? What, perhaps one carrying a cannon?
I don't think so.
The boomerganger kind of mutters to himself irritably before turning their attention back to the captain. Very well. Ensure they're taken to the Claw so that the boss can interrogate them. Of course, of course.
I'm just gonna, herd my children.
The guard nods to the captain and speaks in Undercommon again. My condolences for the loss of your sister, Captain. The captain gives a low bow, and they are all in the Great Webway now. Nothing to be sorrowful for. The boomerganger and the dark elf thrust the iron gates open with a and the captain gestures to all of you with her sword. Onwards. We don't stop till we reach the Claw.
All right.
I guess we shall go.
As you're all led past the two guards, they close the iron gates behind you. And you can hear the boomerganger and the dark elf chuckling to each other in a small whispered conversation as the gates shut. The sound of the iron squeaking and scraping, drowning out what they're saying to each other. But as you're thrust out into Ostoliante proper, you are able to take in the city itself. Welcome to Ostoliante. Looking around, you find yourself in a massive cavern, several miles wide and thousands of feet tall. At the moment, you seem to be on what appears to be a very high plateau that actually overlooks the entirety of the city. And while at the edge of the plateau, like the back edge of it, you can't actually see much, you can immediately start spotting some landmarks that are visible even from this distance. you can see in the city below the plateau a massive clock tower with the visage of a spider. And rather than the hands of a clock like you're accustomed to on the surface, Asari, you in particular require that, recall that the place you grew up in had a particularly impressive one back in Britannia. Rather than the hands of a clock, you see that the tower simply gives off a glow, and with no obvious indicator of what time it is, at least that you can tell. Between the clock tower and the cliff face of the plateau, you can see a stretch of what appears to be a massive forest of fungus and mushrooms. You don't see an immediate way down from the plateau, but again, you're at the back edge of it, so it's possible being at the edge of it would help you a bit. The cavern itself is... Ivaebhin, even you're forced to acknowledge it's actually rather beautiful. The cavern, rather than being carved from drab stone and rock, is actually carved in what appears to be a massive vein of crystals. And as a result, the entire wall that seals the city underground is covered in glistening gems and jewels. And the city itself is not actually as dark as you would expect a dark elf city to be. It gleams with what, Ivaebhin, you're able to instantly recognize as various shades of blue and purple fairy fire that are being used to illuminate the city. Between the magical glow of the fairy fire and the gleaming crystals of the cavern's ceiling and walls, the whole place gleams and glistens and glows, far brighter and more beautifully than you would expect from such a dark underground city. Flower and Fall, turning your attention to the ceiling, you can see that the city does not stop at the ground. On the ceiling of the cavern that completely seals this place from the surface, you can see that there are actually roads and paths on the ceiling, not even being dangled from it, but actually in it. And you can see spiders and people riding them, just traversing those roadways upside down.
Wow.
And Paul, you notice with some amount of impressed that there are actually massive, luxurious mansions and villas on the ceiling. How they're being held in place, you can't imagine. But you can see, while there's not a lot of traffic up there, just this entire sub-area of the city just upside down on the ceiling, seemingly traversable only by spiders and those who have spiders.
Wow.
I do
All
have
of-
to admit, I may have problems with its inhabitants, but I can't knock the city itself.
Asari looking, or rather I'll say Greylog since you were looking for this. Greylog, you immediately notice that several of the houses and rooftops you can see from where you're standing have have glistening fairy fire sigils of spiders dotting them, likely in tribute to Lady Arachne. You all notice that even though you can see and hear activity from the city, Asari, you immediately prepare to be blasted with noise, but to your surprise, it's only as loud as you would expect a surface city to be. And given your knowledge of magic, you imagine that they've somehow enchanted this cavern to reduce echo so that the city is actually, survivable. Overall, this place is glistening, shiny, and magical. Although, granted, you have not met any of the people who live here yet, so you reserve a certain amount of judgment. In your immediate...
Are bitches.
And someone else was speaking?
Yeah, I was. Ivaebhin was going to say, alright, I would like to see that prison now.
The captain leading you, holds up a hand, and I'll point it out to you once we reach the edge of the plateau. At that point, you're on your own.
Fair enough. You've already given a lot.
I have. Follow me. We shouldn't have too much trouble here. As you all follow behind her, you make your way into the city proper. And you can immediately see this plateau you're on, which again glistens with crystals and gems, has several, calling them houses would be underselling it, manors, mansions, estates. This is definitely a ritzy area. And you can see guard patrols, but not as many as you would expect. And they initially glance to you and seem suspicious, but as soon as they see the captain at your head, they just kind of shrug and go about their business. You all pass by several walled-in estates and manors and glorious-looking villas. Overall, just a genuinely beautiful and comfortable place. And you notice, though, other than the patrols, there's not a single person on the streets. Which, Flower and Fall, you immediately have that kind of odd sensation of sort of a liminal space. It's weird to be in what is clearly a densely populated city. You can hear the distant sounds of the city below the plateau, but to be in a place that's clearly meant to be inhabited, but there's not a single sign of life beyond the occasional patrol.
This place is giving me the heebie-jeebies. Ugh.
The captain looks around and gives a smile of clearly enjoying being home. And this would be Lovtutvul. We call it the Elevated. This plateau, along with the academy on the other side of the cavern, are the two heads of Ostoliante. They keep this place in order and keep us all organized and unified. As you all make your way across the plateau, more and more of the city and the cavern comes into view. And I will say you also start to notice Flower and Fall as you kind of take in more of that kind of odd liminal space feeling. You notice another thing that's kind of putting you off about what this place that the captain seems to have acknowledged as Lovtutvul. You also notice there's no shops here. It's literally just mansions, estates, and whatnot. And that's it. No people obviously living here, and no shops being set up. Not even a hot dog cart. Just mansions with no obvious sign of anyone living in them.
Or do people buy these places just for this to say they did it?
The captain speaks up over her shoulders. She continues to lead you through the streets. No. Lady Arachne has willed it that once a manor or estate is constructed in Lovtutvul, if the noble family that inhabits it is lost, their home is to be left uninhabited as a sign of respect.
Oh, so it's a ghost fancy neighborhood.
Not entirely. The 8 greater houses of the ruling council inhabit the southwestern edge of the plateau. If you're interested in going after Mother Ostili, that is where you'll find her. Although I'll warn you, her manor is a well-supplied fortress, and that was before the Boomer Gangers agreed to protect her.
Basically, you're not going to just walk up to it.
More than likely, no. Eventually, through all the navigation, you guys managed to reach the edge of the plateau of Lovtutvul. And overlooking the city in its entirety now, you can make out more landmarks that, at the very least, make it more feasible to navigate this. You can see at the eastern edge of the cavern is a massive underground lake with farms and fungal nests being tended to by farmers at its edge. In the center of it all, looked over by the glowing clock tower, you can see what appears to be a circular sort of square from which you can see several markets and stalls being operated. further to the west, you can see a tall pillar of stone that simply connects directly to the ceiling of the cavern. And you imagine is like just a structural thing that just keeps this cavern from caving in. And further west from that, you can make out what appear to be several stalagmites surrounding what appears to just be a inhabited but much quieter looking sort of waste area, just a lot of rock. You can see a few mansions dotting it, but other than that, not much. Directly across from where you're standing, you can see this area of the city that's also noticeably unoccupied, but this one, at a glance, you can see is connected to the rest of the city by a massive stone bridge. And at the end of it, you can see two large emerald statues of a spider and a very fancy-looking, stately building overlooking it. Sort of isolated from the rest of the city. Given what you were told by the captain, this is likely the academy that she mentioned. And finally, she specifically turns your attention to an unremarkable looking thing that is only important to you, given Ivaebhin, who you're searching for. She turns your attention to a canyon that is basically carved into the cavern base. Whether it was here before the Dark Elves got here or not, you don't know. But on its southern side, you can see a rather large-looking building that she points to. This building being situated almost directly between the Underdark Lake and the Bazaar Marketplace. And she points to this building at the southern edge of the canyon. And that would be the Claw. If you're looking for a surface dweller, that's where we're keeping them to be interrogated by the Boomergangers.
Very well, and that is where we must go first.
She turns to all of you and...
You, as part of the deal, you're free to go.
She seems kind of surprised, but sheaths her sword and holsters her crossbow. And indeed...
So, with your permission, before you go, we caused a lot of your wounds. I would like to help with some of them before you leave.
She holds up her hands and... Not you.
Fair enough.
And she looks at you, Paul.
Should I? Let's. I may heal you, but I don't really have a whole lot left in me.
Just do what you can. I'll find a medical center.
Okay. I guess he'll lay his hands onto her again and cast Cure Wounds first level.
All right, how much do you heal her for?
Let's see. Ooh, good health. 10.
Her wounds close up fairly significantly, and she breathes a sigh of relief as her stance kind of rights, and she finally takes her hand off of the wound at her side. And looking at the blood on her hands, she looks to you, Paul, and whispers to you in a low tone so that the rest of the party can't hear. Before you came to the Underdark, were you traveling with a dark elf boy?
Before... I mean, Paul sees no reason to lie. I guess you could say I was traveling with a dark elf, yes, but...
And a pair of sprites.
Yes.
And may I ask what became of them?
I don't think that's my story to tell.
She gives you a seemingly genuine, if somewhat mischievous smile, and good boy. The Boomergangers are looking for you. They know who you are. I'd recommend staying off the streets. We were given orders if we found people fitting your description to kill them on the spot, search your bodies, and take everything we found to the Boomergangers and their captain.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate the warning.
She gives a nod, and they don't patrol Lovtutvo that often, but the lower districts, they patrol in droves, finding and rooting out dissidents. I don't know what their criteria is, and if you're indeed the man they're looking for, if you can't find a way to disguise yourself, then stay off the streets. And she kind of bites her lip a little bit and ask for me if you are captured, and perhaps I can speak on your behalf. I make no promises for your allies, but I'll make an exception for you.
Love on the battlefield.
She, like, kind of hisses at you and kind of elbows past you, Paul.
Oh, no, I didn't actually say that in character. That was just me.
By the way, I was going to ask, are we able
I'm
to
sorry.
hear this conversation?
No, she's whispering to Paul, though you can attempt to eavesdrop if you want.
No,
Maybe
I was
has no
just
reason
out of
to.
character saying that.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
All right. She nods to you, Paul, and her fingers kind of twitch a little bit before she shakes her head and makes her way past you. And much as I appreciate your healing, I need a doctor. Perhaps I should head to the nearest temple.
Speaking of temples, how about you actually leave it to your goddess to decide what comes of you instead of deciding for yourself?
She turns over her shoulder as she stops in her leaving briefly and smiles. As I said, I'll see what consequences your actions bring to this city. If I am satisfied with the results, as is her ladyship, then I will consider what happened to my sisters and I an act of divine right, and let Arachne decide if I should be punished. However, if what you do only hurts my people, ruins our relationship with the Boomergangers, and brings death and ruin as I expect, then I shall let myself live just long enough to intake what I've done. And with any luck, let my death be on what conscience you may have. Goodbye, Sunbloods. And with that, she turns on her heel and walks away.
It was just like, it was only being, she was so helpful.
They can be a bit nasty, but I feel like she has a heart.
Anyways, I need to go have a look at that prison. If
Is that
y'all
really
wish
our
to
top
know,
concern?
it is my top concern.
Remind me why we care.
You could do whatever you like. I'm going there.
Very well.
I guess without Ivaebhin will go himself.
Okay.
Cool.
I guess with that said, we'll take this one at a time. So, Ivaebhin, the location of the claw has been pointed out to you, so you know where to find it.
Take the. As goes for he's probably to try and he's gonna try to stay off the street as they were told.
Okay. So we'll come back to you. Paul, from the sounds of it, Ivaebhin intends to go to the claw with or without the party's help. What are you going to do?
Well, I mean, if we have the parties, I guess I'm just trying to think, man. I'm gonna get him in trouble way easily. But that doesn't matter with the Paul. I'm gonna go. I guess over the help of Ivaebhin.
Okay. Ivaebhin, as you start making your way down the path, which curves down the plateau somewhat precariously before exiting out into the fungal forest at the foot of the plateau, you hear the slight clanking of armor as you see the finely dressed Paul making his way behind you, seeming intent on following you.
You're going to help me.
Help you and also make sure that you don't hurt more people necessarily.
Has it ever occurred to you that maybe sometimes some people deserve to be hurt?
Well, has it ever occurred to you that meeting people right away doesn't always mean that they should be hurt right away?
I didn't hurt any of you, because I had no reason to.
Did you have any reason to hurt her?
We needed information.
So that gave you the right to hurt her?
If she wasn't willing to give up information for any other reason, but she probably was not. I will admit, I wasn't exactly in the best state of mind to be making such decisions at the time. I'm sure there were probably more diplomatic ways to have gotten information, but unfortunately, I wasn't thinking about them at that time.
Yes. And that could be a problem, but that's what. And I'm merely coming along to, I guess, help you. It sounds like help you rescue someone, and also keep an eye on.
I will say that I'm hoping this person will help me with those state of mind issues. Someone to, I think as humans say, ground me. If it makes you feel any better, hopefully after doing this, I'll be less likely to hurt people without good reason.
Sounds like a plan.
Flower and Fall, you see Ivaebhin and Paul start making their way down the path, engaged in low, hushed conversation. Asari seems intent on going her own way for the time being, not being particularly interested in whatever business Ivaebhin has at the prison. What do you want to do?
Well, seeing as we look like some vagrant children, we'll go our own way. I'm kidding.
Right.
I'll help Ivaebhin. He's been having some trouble.
All right. Ivaebhin and Paul, just as your conversation is coming to a quiet close, you hear the light footsteps of the glamoured Flower and Fall catching up to you and falling into line behind, seeming also intent on joining you.
Just smiles, says, looks like I have some more help.
Yes, we can be sneaky.
Paul can't.
You're probably going to need to be sneaky. Still not 100% certain what we're going to do. I'd have to see the place.
Stealth is
I'm hoping to...
not going to be a very good option.
I'll just try not to draw any more attention than normal. You'd be surprised how much you can get away with if you're careful.
Greylog, you and Asari sit up on the plateau alone, seeing the rest of the party making their way down the path. Do you wish to stay with Asari, go your own way, or join Ivaebhin?
Greylog is going to look at Asari. I may not like the bastard, but He serves his purposes, and we shouldn't just let him go at this alone. The others have joined in with his strength in numbers. We should go too. They could use the help.
You just hear a very annoyed grunt. And she just kind of looks at you. And like I said before, in this form, it's very easy to read her like facial expressions, unlike when she's in her dragon form. And she's very undecisive. He doesn't seem to care about anybody but himself. Why should I care about him?
Well, if you want him to care about other people, you gotta first show him that people care about him.
Don't go pulling be the bigger person. I'm always the bigger person.
It's just
As you
always
remind me constantly. So prove it.
She just kind of snorts angrily.
Come on, it'll be fun. It'll be like old times.
I'm only going because you asked.
Yeah, then take her hand and go sliding down the hill. Roughly what time is it?
It's been a while since you came underground. And you can't.
We've rested.
Are we tired?
You are not tired at the moment.
Is it the dark elves' nighttime, or is it their daytime currently for them?
You have no idea. You can't read their clocks, and the dark elves.
Out and about, or are there not a lot of them?
All right, Maggie. What are the fucking crowds that out doing their fucking job? Or are they in the fucking taverns?
Make a perception check.
You talk to me about freaking being like a smartass.
And I would like to make a perception check as well for that.
Go ahead.
You knew what they meant.
I legitimately didn't. I thought they were just basically just asking the time, and I thought they were just asking what time is it for them, and just you don't know.
I got a 14.
All right, and what'd you get for perception? I'm sorry.
Got a 5.
All right, sorry, you're not sure, but Greylog, as you focus your attention on the streets of the city, they appear to be relatively active. So you imagine for them, it's, you don't know how populated this place is, so whether it's at its high point, you don't really know. But by your best judgment, there appears to be enough of them out and about that you would estimate it's at least an active hour for them.
I'm going to make it headcanon that I log it.
A headcanon that what?
Yeah, you weren't coming in.
She's saying that she's making eye candy at Greylog.
All right.
Because in this lighting, his abs look fucking great.
All right.
Seeing all the commotion in the city, Greylog would like to go up to Ivaebhin and say, and then just ask him, "Hey, I know you really want to go to call right now, but maybe we should wait for the town to die down some, give us a better chance of getting through without being caught."
You can see that Ivaebhin seems to be thinking about it, And
But
I
we're
would
willing
say
to
that
help you.
his logical part is definitely agreeing with him, but there's like another part of him that wants to get there really badly.
Hmm.
Yes.
He kind of
Give
does.
us a few hours.
Where would we go?
Well, there's plenty of abandoned buildings. You think they're guarded? I don't. Let's just take you one of those for the time being. Wait out a few hours, and be good to go.
You reckon one of the houses are like fully like stocked?
Ivaebhin just looks at the prison, looks back, looks at the prison.
Prison's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not going anywhere.
You're right. We should. He
You
seems
can't
very
help your
torn
friend
up
if you
about
get
this.
caught.
Yeah. You can't help whoever you're trying to get out if you're dead.
You're right. We should wait. God fucking damn it. Why did it have to be like when they're active, Matthew?
And at this point, Greylog would like to start looking at the abandoned manors to see if they look available and unguarded, and if we could get in without being seen.
Make a perception check.
I'll peep in some windows and help.
This is gonna go poorly.
Oh, can he have advantage because I'm gonna peep in some windows?
Well, I will say most of these mansions have walls and around the houses themselves. Although there are gates that, but you can attempt to look at them and help. I'm just basically you can't specifically look through the windows unless you're just going to say
Daddy, don't take it away from me. I want to peep in a window.
Okay. So you're just gonna. Do you want to try to climb over one of the walls or bash down one of the gates?
Okay, can I like look in a window over a gate?
Sure. Make a perception check with advantage, Greylog.
Thank you.
Also, while they're rolling, to answer your point, Ivaebhin, to be fair, it's legitimately just a lore thing that you guys just got unlucky with. Like, that wasn't me being a dick. It just, you guys came at a time where they would be active. Like, basically, my alternative was, hey, they would normally be active at this point, but I'm just going to break that and say that they're not active to make it convenient.
You know, I'm staring at the clock right now, and I'm just thinking, come on, come on, come on. Can we please
So I
just
got
get
a
this
17
already?
from my first one, and I think it was 23. Yeah, 23 for the second.
Okay. Real quick, while they're scanning a house to try and find an abandoned one that looks relatively unguarded, Paul, Flowerfall, and Ivaebhin, are you going to be doing anything, or just wait for them to find a place to stay for the night and join them when they find it?
Ivaebhin is just gonna wait, but he's kind of basically, instead of the usual kind of not really giving off anything, he seems very anxious all of a sudden.
All right. Paul, Flowerfall?
Paul just kind of like you can kind of tell he's not like completely okay with the idea, but he's just like better than the alternative.
Waiting it is.
Okay. Sorry, Greylog, you lead the group back up the path from the plateau and start checking the surrounding estates and manors. In a sparse few of them, you do see lights that immediately, make you move to the next one, not wanting to take your chances. However, as you're searching around, you do come across, as mentioned, quite a few that appear to be abandoned. In one of them, you see, while it is, of course, surrounded by walls with spikes at the top to likely prevent people from simply climbing over, and the gate is held together with chains, the manor itself not only appears to be abandoned, but you see it looks like it was destroyed by a fire. There's a lot of visible holes and damage, which you're pretty convinced nobody's living there unless they're like a hermit or something. You don't see any lights or any signs of activity. However, Asari, being very magically inclined, you spot something that Greylog misses. Lining the garden are a bunch of burnt holes in the ground. And in areas where there are not holes in the ground, you see what appear to be magical runes burned into the grass. It's subtle, only a very slight change in the grass's color indicating that there's something there.
Okay,
And as a spellcaster, I will say, as a spellcaster, you are able to read magical runes. You are able to roughly gather that if whatever activates these runes is triggered, it will set off a fireball.
Can I tell what would cause the reaction? Can I read it? I mean, obviously I can read it, but can I make it out?
Make an Arcana check.
It out? Is that what you're trying to ask?
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, make an Arcana check.
It's trigger effect.
17. I'm losing my voice.
You're fine.
So sorry.
You're not positive, but you would roughly gather that given that it's on the ground and fireball effect specifically, and given the holes you can see in the ground nearby, you imagine that these will be triggered by, they're basically acting as wards and will go off if an intruder steps too close to them.
Is it this house specifically?
Yes.
Or if I look at, if I go look at another house, do I see anything similar?
You kind of walk away from Greylog and check some of these surrounding manors and estates, and while you don't see the exact same runes, you can see similar ones. You see a rune on a door across the street that looks like if the door is attempted to be forced open, will set off what appears to be a lightning bolt spell. You see another one that will activate Earthbind if someone tries to force open the door, and it will basically force them to the ground. It looks like the houses that are not currently occupied are placed under magical protection to keep out intruders.
Okay. I have another question.
Go for it.
I am going to. I would like to, and this is why it's a question, and I don't know if it's possible. I would like to, because did we have a long rest yet?
No.
You had one in the tunnel earlier, but not since then.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, we haven't had a long rest. It's the whole kabacle.
And you only got a short
rest.
So you could say changing your spells, which I don't think you can do that.
I don't think I can do that until fall. No, I can't do it until long rest. But I'm checking to see if I can't do it.
I don't think sorcerers
anyway,
can change their
because
spells.
I'm out of.
I think sorcerers are one of those who can't change their spells.
It's every long rest. I checked. Anyways, I can't do it anyway because it's a 3rd level spell. So never mind.
Oh, the sorcery
I
points.
will.
And you used up your sorcery or most of your sorcery points.
No, I was gonna cast fly on myself and see if I could figure a way in without triggering the traps, the arcane traps, but I can't do that right now because I don't have any 3rd level spots. So
Okay. Oh, and real quick, as a quick point of clarification, no, actually, Austin is right. Sorcerers can only change their spells on a level up.
Oh shit, okay.
You're thinking of clerics, which you are playing
Okay.
tomorrow, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Clerics and druids, I believe, and paladins.
Yeah, because we had the exact opposite debate last week for Tuesday, so I think that's where
All
the
right,
confusion
so
came
I'm
from.
gonna tell everybody what I have found.
All right, so sorry,
bad
passes on to.
news-
Avoid the runes. Let's go.
Yeah, bad news. There are runes. What's interesting is that they are not only in the grounds, but also sometimes on the doors. So we would have to find a way in that
Is it on the door for
doesn't.
the one we're looking at?
It's on the ground. So if we
Mm.
step on it, I'm assuming that that it would, catch us fire.
So don't step on it.
A little hard to do when, we're walking creatures.
Weren't there holes in the ground?
There
Yeah,
are,
but you're not
presumably from.
understanding that the runes are like engraved in the ground, and I don't. Would I be
Matthew.
able to calculate if there is a way around the rune?
Make an investigation check, and Ivaebhin, go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm gonna ask, like, wouldn't that use the rune if it was set off?
Most likely. Or at the very least, Asari would have seen
Ooh.
a new rune put in that hole where the previous one had been.
Mhm. I got a filthy 20.
While you do see a rough path that if you just jump in the holes, you could cross without setting off any of the runes, it would still be a little bit tricky. And from the looks of it, if basically you jump from hole to hole, you could make it to the other side in one piece. But if you scuff it, it's going to hurt more than a little.
Okay, so I'm sorry, she's gonna cross her arms and just kind of shake her head. No, it honestly wouldn't work. It would
So
probably
Ivaebhin's
hurt
gonna
us
be like,
more than anything.
Well,
okay, so the waiting plan is off. We're going back to the original plan.
wait. Well, if we set them off, then
Well,
would
I
that-
have a way in.
Like, if
You
we
do?
set them off, would that mean anything?
Yes. I can summon some animal friends to dig up the tunnel underneath all those ruins.
My love, did we not learn our lesson from last time we summoned an animal?
You don't know that.
Technically,
It doesn't take a genius to figure it out, darling. Now, I
Love the
am
idea that Asari just.
interested-
I think it's just an Amanda character thing at this point that anytime anything goes wrong, she assumes that somebody in the party is responsible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like at some point that just becomes metagaming.
Oh, it's absolutely 100% metagaming, but it's in character enough for me to let it slide.
One of you shitheads did it, and I know which one it is. Even though I technically don't.
Technically don't. Okay.
So Matthew,
no,
I swear to God, I will actually freak out if you end this right as we get to the point I'm trying to get to.
I mean,
Well, I have some bad news for you, mate, but we'll get there when we get there.
I do, however, think that it would summon not only the authorities, but like everybody else, it's going to be a big show. It's not just a little bitty spell, it's fireball. Remember how I exploded everything with my fireball? Yeah, like that.
I don't believe it was that showy, so.
But it also will explode things, and it will just be very messy, and it's very, not a good idea.
Okay.
I mean,
Matthew, another question.
Go for it.
Looking at where I know the claw to be from here,
Mm-hmm.
how long do I think it would take to tunnel from here to there?
Depends on what creature you summon.
yeah, let 'em be.
Giant badgers.
Why not summoning a harmless like a mole?
Because I can't summon moles. It's not on the list.
That's like a you problem.
All right, so Here, I'm actually double checking that.
Definitive, or is it just an example?
I mean, I guess it just does the ones they show you. Technically, you can't talk to the DM and be like, hey, is there other animals? As long as it's within the challenge rating.
Well, and regardless, because this is what I thought he was going to point out, if he summons a mole, the problem is moles are very small, so it's going to take them even longer to make a tunnel big enough that you guys can get through. At least the tunnel a badger digs, you can walk through.
A giant badger.
Giant badger.
All right, so
Badger.
motion. Okay, so So
Trying to think who is playing.
make a survival check.
Oh,
Ugh.
This is going to be interesting if I go through that plan.
You think somebody who could speak with animals would have very good survival?
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true. You don't need survivability to speak with animals. So.
that is a 22 actually.
Okay. By your best guess, this is basically you acknowledge you're going through a lot of assumptions. You're assuming that given the nature of this place as an underdark city, that there's no other pre-existing tunnels that your badgers might run into that could speed up or slow down their progress. You're also not necessarily taking into account that they have to dig through, if you dig from here anyway, they're going to have to dig through the plateau to ground level, then start digging towards the claw. But by your best guess, assuming they don't run into anything that slows them down, starting from where you're standing, it would take them about 4 hours.
So too long.
What about from the bottom of the plateau?
At most, or rather at best, 3.
Take too long.
So
Why would it take too long?
Because once he loses once the spell fizzles out, which I believe it only lasts an hour, the animals will just go back to normal and wander off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll last up to 1 hour. And I've only got 2. Wait, no, hang on. I've only got 1 third level spell to do that again. Unless I could just talk to animals and just convince them to go.
First, it's to find an animal.
Well, I got 1 third level spell slot that I could summon the badgers. So I'm going to use my last third level spell slot to summon the 8 badgers.
Maybe you can have them dig us a place to hide for a little bit.
Yes, I got an idea. I'm going to summon the 8 giant badgers.
All right, using up. You're starting to get tired at this point just from the magical overuse, but you summon the badgers to your side, and after a moment's pause, badgers begin to tunnel up. Some even emerging from the grass on the other side of the walled gate and having to kind of re-dig themselves to actually be on the other side of it from you as they kind of look around in confusion. And after about a minute or 2, you are surrounded by 8 badgers looking up at you expectantly.
I will ask them to work on digging us the tunnel.
All right. They turn their noses downward and begin to dig.
Wait, what was your exact words?
Well, the tunnel to the claw.
In the meantime, as mentioned, this is going to take a while. So, Paul, you said you had something you wanted to try? You're a little staticky, but I'll get to you after Paul says his thing.
Well, Paul's gonna get on his mount, and he seems very intent on looking. You can see his gaze is set on the runes on the floor.
Okay.
Is he gonna tank them?
I mean, he could. The problem is, it's just, alerting
I feel like that
people.
would draw a lot of attention.
We don't know that.
Oh god, I'm not
Um,
even gonna get to that
We
fucking
do,
point.
it's fireball. We do know that.
We don't know that, so. I mean, there's there a wall/gate blocking the way?
Yes, there is a gate with chains keeping it locked shut and a spiked wall surrounding the mansion.
Please
Mhm.
don't draw a bunch of attention to us.
Mm.
That's gonna slow this down even more.
Yay, it's not me this time.
Yeah, Paul's not smart, so like, I could just tank it and it'd be fine. The biggest thing I was worried about was my steed dying, which I'd be like, sad.
Paul, let me explain something to you. I have
Mm.
studied magic a very long time, and that magic, and she points at the runes, is very dangerous, and it will give a lot of attention that we don't need right now.
The attention I can understand, the dangerous I believe I can handle.
I understand that you think that, but you are wrong.
We can disagree. We can agree to disagree.
I
on
was
that.
very careful when I casted mine. I cannot guarantee that these same results would happen because, they want you to die.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, what do you do?
Paul will look at the chains and see if I have a spell for this. No, I don't. Too good to have a spell for that. Man, I want to. I was like, man, I just want to do something reckless. Why not? So, man, I want to break this chains. Just gotta, man.
If he makes a move to break the chains, I want to try to stop him.
Paul, what do you do?
I guess Paul's going to try and like stealthily break the chain.
Alright.
I don't know how he's gonna do it. He's gonna try to use his blade to just break it somehow quietly.
Yeah, I'll allow you to try.
He'll use his little
but
hammer.
first, Asari did say they wanted to try and stop you. Asari, go ahead and make me a grapple check with disadvantage because he is up on a mount, so it's going to be hard for you to reach him. And
Okay, what do I roll again?
You are going to use athletics. Paul, you can use acrobatics to contest if you prefer.
Nah, I'm not good with that. Okay.
All right, Asari. Remember that you have disadvantage on this.
6.
Paul, what'd you get?
I got a 30-20.
All right. Now roll me a stealth check with disadvantage.
I already have disadvantage. Joke's on you.
Shit.
What happens if you have disadvantage already and then get disadvantage again?
It doesn't stack.
Yeah, it just does nothing.
It doesn't have like a low, like it doesn't have like an increased.
I guess
Or
it's up to
shoulders
the DM.
It's up to the DM at that point, but
Yeah.
in terms of the actual rules, no. It's part of the reason I don't worry that much about advantage and stuff not stacking, because the negative also applies.
Mm-hmm. I got a 13.
Okay.
Okay.
Give me just a second.
Why I'm doing this? I'm just.
I mean, you're the only one who seems to want to. All right. You all watch as Paul unsheaths their blade. Asari, you immediately start like pulling at his like leg and waist to try and pull him off his mount. But Paul, your elk kind of like kicks and pulls away from Asari. And as you kind of realign your sword, as your elk is kind of bucking beneath you to get Asari away, you bring your sword down in a mighty cleave. And the chains loudly shatter and clatter to the ground, and the gate swings open as if the chains were the only thing holding them together. And Paul, as your elk steps back, kind of dragging Astari away from them with it, you notice that you guys hadn't noticed it initially, but there is a big crater at the base of the gate, which seems to be the reason it just fell open once the chains were removed. That seems to be the result of one of those runes going off right at where the gate is. However, Ivaebhin, as you immediately start looking around in a panic, and Flower and Fall, you start turning your attention out around you to see if anyone heard it. It wasn't exactly quiet, and this place is kind of a ghost town, but you don't hear any shouts. No patrols seem to be coming. Paul, for the time being, while you weren't exactly quiet, it appears you did this without being heard.
He totally, Paul knows what he's doing. Completely.
Greylog,
if he does wind up alerting someone, Ivaebhin will absolutely bolt at this point.
Greylog, your badgers kind of peek up from the hole they're digging before just turning their attention back to their task. Paul, the gate lies open. The field of craters and runes lie ahead of you. What would you like to do?
I'm thinking, man. How much HP did my steed have? Yeah, let's see here. He's got a +0 to Dex. A whopping 13 HP. Okay, alright. He can maybe survive one blast.
Or maybe Paul can just not use his steed?
Well, I mean, if he's gonna do it, he's gonna use his steed. It's faster and better. But
to what end is he doing this?
To get us a house to stay.
Well, then why does he need to move quickly to do it? He could clear a path moving slowly.
Because, again, he's better on his mount.
Basically, he actually has a lesser chance of activating these things at all if his mount accompanies him. If Paul did it himself, he actually has a much higher chance of getting hurt.
Well, yeah, plus I get to use my mount stuff. Like, you know, my mount has evasion whenever I'm on him.
Oh gosh, fucking damn it, I'm gonna have to wait another fucking week.
It happens, yeah.
Oh no, another week.
That is the longest shit ever, man.
Yeah, like anime. Man,
yeah. Yeah, so Paul, what are you gonna do?
Paul will look to Asari and be like, how big do you think this is?
She's just gonna narrow her eyes and just be like, Are the runes still on the floor?
Yeah.
I just kind of narrow my eyes. It wasn't the gate I was worried about.
And didn't say. Well, I understood that part. I'm just saying, how big do you think the explosion is?
You said it's a fireball, right?
By your best guess.
I'm going to look at Paul and I'm going to be like, do you remember when we were up there and I had cast a spell and I had killed everybody
No,
in the entire people?
I don't believe
With
I
the
ever.
Boomer Gamers, you don't remember that. It was
I
like
don't remember.
You didn't
literally
do
today.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Ivaebhin that did that.
Yes, I did.
Ivaebhin blew
No, you
everyone up.
didn't.
No, I did the fucking cave. I did the fucking cave.
Yeah, you blew the fucking.
And that was a snowball
Yeah.
storm, not a fireball.
Right. Okay. So you remember when I blew up the cave?
What? You cut out.
Oh, I said, do you remember when I blew up the cave?
When you blew up the cave?
The entrance.
It's not a cave, it's a door.
Big explosion.
I believe you.
And it's
It was.
massive. Glow the heart.
I was like, wasn't it like a explosion of the arrow that did that?
No, it was my fireball.
Paul, are you going to go or not?
She was saying the boulder when she put the firewall in the center after putting the hole through it.
Oh no, I acknowledge that. I'm basically doing the call of I know neither character is going to be convinced, so I'm just trying to get Paul to make a move.
Just talking.
That was for Paul.
No, but she's trying to trying to describe to the best of her ability, basically dumbing it down to him because he doesn't.
He knows
seem
what
to
a fucking
understand.
boulder is.
No, not
the
that.
explosion.
She's trying to explain the explosion.
The explosion radius to him. He's like, I'm just like.
Because when I did the fireball, I was very precise on where I wanted it. This is going to be just like it, and it's going to hurt a lot.
I can handle the pain. If that's the problem, then that's really no.
It
no
will
issue.
catch everything on fire.
Well, I mean, I have my stuff secured, and as long as you guys stay out of the range.
Everything that is flammable.
I believe we're good on myself. So, would be the main problem.
You say that now, but
You're not gonna convince him.
Well,
obviously not.
simply put, I'm not worried about my safety. I'm just simply thinking of the aspect of alerting people, but based off what I remember, wasn't.
Well, I
too.
am standing right next to you. So if you're going to think of somebody's safety, at least think of somebody else's.
Well, I believe I believe y'all are outside the range, right?
I'm next to you.
Well, you're not gonna be
Ow,
next
but he's
to
not
him.
standing
Yeah,
out
but
right
fireball
now.
is a 90. Fireball is a 90 foot.
That's a
No.
90-foot range. The explosion
shoot
is
it.
much smaller.
Yeah, like a 90 foot to cast it. It's like, I think it's like 15 or 20.
I'll check.
It was like 20 feet blast radius.
Sorry would know. Amanda doesn't, but a sorry would.
Yeah, it's a total of a 40-foot blast, 20 foot in all directions.
Okay.
So, Paul, what are you doing?
As long as he's 20 feet. So basically, is the runes like, roughly 20 feet from the group, I guess?
Make an investigation check.
He's not very good at that.
While he does that, Asari's just gonna cross her arms and just say, "Do whatever you like. I don't even want to be here." So,
Yeah,
and she's just gonna turn around and walk away.
I gotta get myself a tin.
Asari walks away.
And Paul, you're not as good as identifying these things as Asari is, so you're not exactly sure where the runes start, other than that you're reasonably confident the craters are a safe spot. However, the craters start literally at the fence. The main tricky part is going to be making sure you land perfectly in the hole, because, again, you don't know if any area between them is safe or not.
Oh no, my I was gonna activate them on purpose.
Ah.
I want to activate them and hopefully get and basically I will take the full front of it, and then
But that will clear a perfect path for the party.
Yes.
Question: what language does his elk speak?
You don't.
It's what kind of animal is it?
It's an elk.
And it's the
If I
spiritual
were
elk.
trying to talk primordial to it, or like my druid talk, would it understand me? And
You
could I
can try.
understand it?
You can try.
I want to talk to this elk.
All right. What language do you want to try speaking?
I'm going to first try druidic.
Okay. Paul, is that a language that your elk speaks?
I believe I made a sheet here. I don't know about elks in general, but I know it understands one language of my choice, of my things, which is...
And I'm going to take a wild guess and say that's not druidic.
No.
So, Greylog, you say whatever you want to say in druidic, which you can say just so we know if you like.
Pretty much that if you go in there, you're probably not going to survive, and your rider may not either. Just so you know. And you're meant to protect him.
I understand a word you said.
Yeah, the elk kind of looks to you and just gives a... It does not appear to have understood what you said.
I will, since it didn't understand me, I will cast Speak with Animals.
Okay.
Say the same thing.
And then say the same thing.
There's a moment of pause, and you almost wonder if because it's magical it didn't understand you then either. But after a moment, it just turns its head away from you and looks in the direction that Paul's looking, as Paul's scanning the area to figure out what's a good starting point for this path he wants to cleave through it all, and gives a quiet response. I go where Master says.
Even if that puts him in danger?
If that is what he wishes.
Even if it kills him?
If that is what he wishes. However, I believe we will survive this. My master is strong.
Yes.
But is he that strong? This
Yes.
is pretty strong magic that y'all are going up against.
Yeah. Funny part is none of us know how strong it is.
Yeah, it could be like the wimpiest fireball ever.
Yeah, all of this fucking rigmarole, and it turns out that Asari just misidentified the spell.
Well, no, it's just the fact it's just a level, it's the lowest level fireball, not just.
Yeah, to be fair, this is meant for just common people. This isn't meant for adventurers.
Mm-hmm. And Greylog, the mount, kind of glances to you out of the corner of its eye, and perhaps I may fail, but I will, until my dying breath, ensures he gets where he wants to go.
Hoping he doesn't fail.
Well, I just want to make sure that you had some voice on the matter.
Always. Master understands me.
Then good luck.
Paul, what do you do?
Paul's gonna do it, I guess. So I didn't get like a good idea of distance, so I'm assuming they're good based off the crater. So Paul's gonna kind of like a deep breath, and you can see him start going forward at like just kind of picking up speed faster and faster towards a straight beeline to the door.
Paul, make me 3 dex saves.
3. Okay.
This is either going to be amazing or a disaster.
Yeah. Well, first let me roll my steeds 3. Roll.
Ouch.
Because if you die, I don't have any more third level spell slots
My
to
steed
revive
is
your
not
hero.
doing good.
Ouch.
My steed is not doing very good.
I think your steed might be dead.
I don't know. It depends on how powerful these hits are.
Yeah.
Because it takes half damage even on success or on fails. So.
All right, what'd you roll?
My steed got. Let's see. I'm trying to do the math. 11, because he gets a +3 from me. A 7, and a 30-20.
Okay.
I, on the other hand, let's see, I got +5. Oof. Yay, it's fun.
Whoa.
Okay. Second one's better. And the last one's a natural. So 7.
You rolled a
22.
natural 1 on the last one?
Well, luckily it's a saving throw, so it doesn't matter. 7, 22, and 6.
Okay.
You did not do well.
I mean...
All right.
This is...
Oh god, that was 3 at least.
Well, yeah, it's just bare minimum. It's 3 rolls.
Yeah. And you said your mount takes half damage even on a failure?
Yes, it has evasion from my feet.
Okay. And do you get that as well, or just your mount?
I believe it does. It just states my mount, so I get full damage.
Okay. On your first roll, which both of you fail, but your mount still takes half, you take 11 fire damage. Your mount takes 4.
Okay. My mount.
That was just...
Not that bad. 14, or is it? He's at 9 HP.
The next one.
11.
I believe your mount succeeded the last one, but not the second one, right?
I'm assuming
Because it was a dirty 20 on the final. Yes. So
I got
this next one.
the second one.
Paul
so.
succeeded the second one.
Yeah. So yeah, Paul, you succeed this one, but your mount failed. I'm gonna flavor it once we do see what the complete result is. So on this next one, your mount fails, but still takes half. You succeed, so you take half. So both of you will take half damage from this next one.
I just need my mount to succeed this one.
At half damage. You both take an additional 6 fire damage.
Okay, he's hurt pretty badly, but he's good. My mount lives.
And yeah, because your mount has evasion, the mount just takes no damage on the next failure, right?
I mean, if it succeeded.
Which yeah, they did succeed the final one.
Failed.
Although I will say, that being said, did you say your mount succeeded with a natural 20 or a dirty?
It was a dirty 20. I mean,
okay, just clarifying for flavor. So your mount will not take damage from this one, but you will take full because you failed.
All right.
You take an additional 8 fire damage.
Okay, not as bad as I thought. I mean,
Still up?
Oh yeah, I mean, I still got like roughly half my HP. So
okay,
a little lower, but
and your mount's still up as well.
Barely.
All right.
And then Matthew's gonna be like, "All right, now That was the first set. Now make me 3 more down.
You all watch in various states of dismay as Paul's elk kind of gets a running start, does that like kind of bull, like dragging the hoof against the ground thing, jumps over the
explosions,
jumps over the crater at the gate, and the pair make it about 10 feet before Asari, you see, all of you, but Asari, you notice it first since you know what you're looking for, see a rune begin to glow at the elk's feet, and the two vanish in a fireball. And immediately, all you can hear is just this cacophony of just as, paying no caution or heed, the pair just vanished in the fire and smoke as they literally carve a safe path for the rest of you, singeing their own skin and fur to ensure you all have a safe place to sleep for the night. And as the vibrations and smoke and fire clear, Paul, I will speak from your perspective of the events now. You and your mount have an almost instinctual connection with each other. So as soon as the first rune begins to glow, you and your mount just basically hunker while still keeping a dead sprint going. And your mount gives this low whine as its back legs are badly burned by the first fireball. The second one goes off, and your mount actually basically rears to protect you from it while taking the full brunt of it themselves, the flames licking at their underside. But as the elk slides, it manages to trigger the final one, but basically leap so that itself is protected from the blast, although your back and the back of your armor gets singed a little bit by the final blast, and you land with a crash of hoof and armor on the porch, which thankfully does not appear to have any additional traps that you can see. As the smoke and fire clear...
Question. Did anybody hear that?
Ivaebhin, make a perception check.
Can I help him, please?
Make a perception with advantage.
Yeah. You got
Good thing I had advantage. That's got to be a 16 in total.
The two of you listen, and
that would have been a 16 on the second roll. The first roll was a 14.
All right. Greylog, as you and Ivaebhin start to listen, you all can hear the distant shouting as it appears the explosions were heard and guards are now making their way towards the manor. You can hear distant shouts and orders being barked in Undercommon.
Ivaebhin's going to say to Paul, "Get back here now. They heard that."
Paul, do you concede? Can't hear you. Sorry.
Need to use the other mic.
Yeah, use Jared's mic.
Asari's just gonna peace out. She's just gonna turn around and walk away. She's out.
Alright, Asari, make me a stealth check.
Sure.
Now.
After Ivaebhin warns Paul, does Paul seem like he's gonna listen?
Paul, do you?
So Paul... Dang, I wish I had more stuff I could do.
17.
Paul will listen. But now we have this house to access later.
If we can escape the guards.
Alright. Seeming content, Paul, you take the less crater-marked and more just clean trench that you blew for the party to quickly make your way back to Ivaebhin. Ivaebhin, Paul seems content that the mansion is at least available for the party to safely access from this point forward.
Now let's get out of here and find somewhere else to hide for a little bit.
I will follow Ivaebhin.
You
Okay.
need to make stealth checks.
Yeah, if you intend to escape from the guards.
And I will let my concentration on the badgers go, since
I don't know if
we
you
no
could have
longer
kept concentration
this.
with what Paul just did.
Yeah, for flavor, yeah, I'll say that like the explosions were what initially shook off your concentration, but you basically, since you still have speak with animals going, you just kind of usher them to basically just dig away so the dark elves don't. Yeah, guys, scat, get out here.
Oh shit!
Yeah, Ivaebhin and
8.
from you.
Yes.
All right, Paul, stealth check.
Let's see. My 2 rolls are a 30, or natural 20, but 16 since I have disadvantage. So 18.
Okay.
And I guess I will as well.
The Paul, non-stealthy one, is actually good, better.
All right, Greylog, go ahead and make a stealth check. Flower and Fall, what are you doing? You're muted if you're talking.
Well, gotta get used to that. I'll also be sneaky.
Okay. Also, really brief side note, just want to point out. I do find it very amusing that during all of this hullabaloo about finding a way to get to the manor without setting out the fire, I know this wouldn't have helped the rest of the party, but I find it amusing that I think everyone just kind of really forgot that Flower and Fall can fly, and thus could have like checked out the mansion, but without anyone being at risk of the fireballs.
Yeah, I thought about that once a few minutes ago. I was like,
Yeah, so Flower and Fall,
Nobody asked.
so Flower and Fall, you're gonna try and hide.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, roll me stealth.
I didn't say Vagrant was hiding. I said he was bolting.
Well, yeah, but you're bolting, but the trolls are about to descend on this area. So, unless you just want to be out in the open for them to interrogate.
That's a 24.
Well,
Okay.
that might be. They said they're taking surface dwellers alive right now. That might be one way for him to get into that prison.
yeah.
That is a fair point.
He'd then be reliant on the party getting him out.
Well, you're implying the party's gonna abandon you.
Ivaebhin, the moment you double check with that Paul's bolting, you and the rest of the party scatter. Asari bolts down the street in the opposite direction from you. Greylog, ushering the badgers away, joins Paul and Flower and Fall and just ducking into the alley of what appears to be a nearby warehouse of some kind. It appears to be an active house, but it doesn't have the same like walls and structures that protect the other ones. So it appears more of a utility building than a home one. And
I got an 11, by the way.
Noted.
Wait, there was just a building that had no walls on it that we could have hidden in.
Well, bear in mind, you guys were looking for a place that was uninhabited. This place doesn't have any obvious way. And bear in mind, I didn't say that the others went inside it. They're just ducking into the alleyway. This place has lights on, indicating there's people inside.
Okay.
As Paul, with your mount, Flowerfall, and sorry, brain just drew a total blank there. Paul, you and Flower and Fall duck into the opposite alleyway. Asari, you just start bolting your way down the street opposite Ivaebhin. And Ivaebhin, as you start to bolt in the opposite direction, you see a patrol of guards making their way towards you. Greylog, in the time it takes you to usher the badgers to safety, you can't even get to a hiding spot before you hear the Dark Elf patrol that's making their way towards the two of you call out in common, presumably so that they can be understood. You two there, halt!
Question. Before like as I'm ushering them away, because I would have had to get into their little tunnel some,
Well, bear in mind, they hadn't dug down that far.
like enough that I could not be seen for like a half second
Well,
or so.
bear in mind, I'm going to flat out say you already failed your stealth check. You're going to get caught one way or the other.
Oh no! I plan to get caught.
All right, so do you want to just jump? Do you just want to for flavor hide in the tunnel?
I think he wants to change.
No, I'm
his
going
appearance.
to change my form
Yeah.
into a dark elf woman.
Okay.
To give myself a bit more leeway.
Okay. As the tunnel is surrounded by dark elves wielding crossbows, and Ivaebhin, you find crossbows leveled at you. The presumably captain of this patrol approaches, and you can see like 2 other patrols making their way into the area. Asari, you managed to slip into an alleyway way down the street, and you can observe what's going on from a very far distance, although you cannot hear what's being said. Paul and Flower and Fall, you're in the alleyway, literally within immediate periphery of Ivaebhin, but the guards do not appear to notice you as 2 additional patrols run in to back up their comrades. And as the 2 of you are surrounded by crossbow-wielding dark elves, Greylog, a hand is roughly shoved in to drag you out by your neck, and a crossbow bolt is pressed into the side of your neck, and a woman, a female voice rasps into your ear. And I'd recommend you take a more respectful form, Shape Changer.
Ooh.
It would be, wouldn't it? And I'll drop back into my usual surface dweller form.
The dark elf captain,
Better.
the guard does not respond as the captain surveys the 2 of you as you are basically dragged by your neck to stand alongside of Ivaebhin, and the captain looks over the 2 of you with hands on her hips and surface elves. And she looks to you, Ivaebhin. A Sherwood spy, I imagine.
We were just looking for someone. We were just looking for someone who came down here.
Well, then we'd be more than happy to take you where we take other surface dwellers, especially, and she gestures with her blade to the hanging open gate and the fresh craters, those who desecrate our sacred properties.
Totally.
We can't say anything about the gate, but to be fair, the yard was more the people who put those runes there.
She takes a step towards you and kind of, not hard enough to actually draw blood, but just kind of lightly jabs you with her sword. And these defenses were put into place by the Duchess that once occupied it. And while we may not have any special fondness for the woman, she was still one of our own. So I suggest you take a more respectful indication of her. Arachne rest her soul.
I don't know why. You all look the same to me.
Wow.
Greylog, make a Constitution saving throw.
Wow.
Will do. Hey! Shit. The elf earlier made that
What?
comment. I will return.
What?
And that's a 15.
Okay. Greylog, you take 7 piercing damage as you feel a crossbow bolt into your thigh. However, you do manage to resist the poison, and you hear that voice rasp into your ear again. Another word like that, and I'll put one in your lap.
Don't mind him. He's a particularly outspoken surface elf.
Oh, imagine that, a light elf who thinks they're the cock of the walk. Can't imagine that.
I see you.
Oh no, it's legitimately just an in-universe stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The fact that Lucian and Gil happen to match that stereotype is not my doing.
And like, I'm not even like Greylock's not even an elf.
Oh,
Not
you don't
really.
think you are?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Remember, your original form got glamoured.
Mm-hmm. Did he do the glamour? But he didn't do
But
it.
doesn't my ability to change my form change to glamour?
You can change into alternate forms, but now your quote-unquote original form looks like that of Gil.
No, I changed back into my when I said original form. I mean like the red hair. Like
Yeah,
my,
the Genasi, right?
yeah.
And that was the form you had when you were glamoured.
Interesting. That's an interesting way.
Okay,
to
that
have
makes more
match
sense now.
works.
The captain rolls her eyes and turns away from the two of you as you're both hoisted higher to your feet and starting to be dragged. These two are going to the Claw. The Boomergangers can decide what to do with them from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess as they pass by, Ivaebhin's gonna try to sneakily just give a glance to the hiding party members, basically being like, I hope you know what to do. Do I need to roll stealth again so that they don't notice me looking?
Nah, I'll say, given that they were already in your periphery and the guards already failed to see them, Paul and Flower and Fall, you see Ivaebhin just give the two of you a glance, seeming basically intent that you guys will bust them out once they're delivered straight to where Ivaebhin wants to go. Paul, you are confident that your plan is succeeding without a hitch.
So
You found a way to get Ivaebhin where you wanted to go.
And fast, too.
question.
You don't even have to break in now. What's that, Grellig?
Did they take our weapons and stuff from us yet?
Yeah, they are in the process of doing so.
When they go to take his sword, he's just going to say, just don't unsheath it if you don't want to split in your head.
The guard kind of gives a scoff, and indeed, your packs and weapons are taken off of your person as you're being dragged away. Is there anything you want to attempt to hide, or
my focus?
Make a sleight of hand check.
Please don't fail me.
Ivaebhin will try to hide a short sword and one of the explosive arrows.
Okay. Make me a sleight of hand check. Yeah, I'll just say flat. I was thinking about maybe disadvantage, but I'll say, like, given the glamour and all, you already got a lot of illusion on you, so I'll say you can make it flat.
It's going to be, let's see, what's my plus? Sleight of
That
hand.
is
It's going to be a
19.
21.
Okay. And Greylog, what'd you say?
19.
Okay. As the Dark Elves start to very roughly pat the two of you down and take all of your weapons and belongings, Ivaebhin, thinking quickly, you keep your short sword and one of your explosive arrows basically pressed tighter to your skin, which the glamour will then conceal them. And as the arrows are removed from your quiver, it takes you a bit of doing, but given that you already have your hands on your head, it's a little bit of sleight of hand, but you're able to discreetly slide the arrow free of the quiver and basically let it lay down your shirt, down.
He doesn't always, I will say, he obviously only cares about the explosive part.
Mm-hmm. Keeping it essentially pressed down the back of your shirt and keeping your short sword pressed tightly to your leg, you then basically slide the lightweight steel weapon up your sleeve, and are confident that your that your weapons are hidden. And Greylog, thankfully, you're...
my inventory, or should I just keep in mind that he doesn't have it?
Yeah, I'll say just keep in mind you don't have it. The only things you have mechanically at this point, so you can just de-equip the other stuff if you like, but just keep it in your inventory in case you retrieve it later so that we don't run into the problem we did with our other campaign of like everyone forgetting what they had. Greylog, what was your focus, just for flavor?
They remove our armor as well.
No, your armor is actually kept on at least for now, although they'll likely remove it later, but armor is a very cumbersome thing to remove, so they seem intent on leaving it for now.
I had 2 focuses. One's a staff that I've been using, but he's also got like a pendant that he wears as well.
Okay. You won't be able to sleight of hand the staff, but you do...
He hands that over.
Yeah,
that's
but...
the one that she saw him use.
Yeah,
he hasn't revealed the pendant.
Yeah. And while the Dark Elves do see the pendant, they don't seem to acknowledge it as anything noteworthy, although you do see the guard kind of like give like a disgusted look to it, likely seeing it as somewhat sacrilege, but otherwise does not do anything to it. You at least give them the benefit of they're not destroying and looting you, just removing anything that could be dangerous to them. And with that, you two are left in nothing but your armor and the weapons you were able to smuggle as you are dragged across the plateau towards the path through the fungal forest towards the claw in the distant city. Paul, Flower and Fall. You just stare after the two of them for a moment, just kind of waiting for a good moment to step out into the light when you hear a creak behind you. And as the two of you turn to look, well, 3 technically, but 2, you see what appears to be a cellar door for this, what appears to have once been a house, but turned into essentially a small warehouse of sorts. As the cellar door that leads out into the alley is thrown open quietly, and you see a dark elf man emerge from it.
Hello.
The dark elf seems to have been expecting it and does not jolt and simply turns to the two of you with a smile and holding up his hands in an indication of surrender. He gives a polite smile and, hello. Gonna guess it was you and your group that caused all that ruckus at the Duchess's manor.
You could say that, yeah.
He gives a small bow and points in the direction, still keeping his hands up to indicate he's not reaching for a weapon, points towards the direction where Ivaebhin and Greylog are being dragged, and if you like, I have some people on the inside that can get them out, if you're willing to do my people a bit of a favor.
This guy is certainly an opportunist. I mean, is he just sitting here waiting all day to make that offer to somebody?
I did mention that there were lights on, and he seems to know that you guys were responsible for the noise. And also seems to know that you two were with these two, even though they could have just been hiding in the alley.
Lots of things connecting. And what is this favor?
He gives a small smile and gestures for the two of you to join him in what appears to be some light illuminating from the cellar. If you'll come with me, I'll explain everything down here. Less chance of being found. They're probably going to step up patrols in the area while they repair the damage, get the gate closed again, that sort of thing. And I'm sure that you haven't been given much reason to trust my kind, but we're on the same side. I wouldn't just make this offer to any random passerby.
Well, seen some good in some of you, so I can't say I don't completely trust or completely distrust you.
And you too?
Rip. Muted.
Well, that's me, but sure. If all it takes is helping you a little.
Oh, a twin mind. Never met one in person. He gives a light bow and gives a nod. Rest assured, the favor I intend to ask is mutually beneficial. Come, join me and my comrades below.
Okay.
Okay. I'll just follow.
As the two of you, Flower and Fall just fluttering, although the glamour makes it appear to be climbing, and Paul joining in last as you shut the cellar doors behind you. The Dark Elf immediately starts launching into a bit of speech as soon as the cellar doors are closed. You gave us quite the fright. We've been using this place as a meeting ground for quite some time. The moment we heard the blast, we started watching what was happening, and he looks to the two of you, and I don't imagine you know the significance of that place you tried to break into, do you?
Well, I can't say I do, because merely was looking for a place to lay low.
Someone told us that all these empty places are from important people.
Indeed. My family used to live there.
Oh. Well, why don't you have it then?
Not much of my family left, and the Boomergangers are making sure that number keeps going down.
Oh. You don't like them, huh?
He gives you a dark, vicious smile. Not a fan.
Well, neither do we.
As I said, I could gather that we're more or less on the same side. The moment I saw your friends being dragged away, I figured that this would be a good opportunity to make some additional allies, something that is an unfortunately precious commodity.
Well, I guess, in the matter of business, you had a favor for a favor?
Indeed. I have some people on the inside that can help get your friends out, but he looks to the two of you and gives a smile. Well, unless there was a body I didn't get a glimpse of, you survived going through the minefield outside of the manor. You're a bit of a tough guy, aren't you?
I can handle a bit of a scuffle like that.
He gives a smile. At this point, he's leading you guys through a kind of twisting hallway, although you can see some lanterns of fairy fire that are illuminating what appears to be a wine cellar. And as he's leading you, he continues to speak. If you get my friends out, I can make sure your friends get out as well. And in return, we just need a little bit of muscle.
So, basically, it sounds like you want us to help you get people out while also helping us get people out.
He gives a smile. I know how to get in, and I know how to get them out. But what I don't know how to do is fight my way past the guards once everyone's gotten out of their cells. Having some heavily armed mercenaries on our side would be a big help. Does that seem fair to you? I know this is a lot to take in so quickly. I must look like quite a stark opportunist, absconding on you in the alleyway, but as mentioned, you were under a very time-sensitive time to get yourselves hidden, and I would rather get my friends out and the Boomergangers out of our city sooner than later.
I get it. I guess for the time being, our needs align, so I don't see why not.
And what about you, Twin Mind? Are you in?
Yeah, wherever this guy goes, I go.
It's been a long time since I've seen camaraderie like that. Well, it's not much, and he leads you to a small set of double doors. It's not much, but welcome to the revolution. And he throws the set of doors open. Sorry. As soon as the heat starts to die down, you make your way back to the manor. And Flower, Fall, and Paul are nowhere to be seen. And Ivaebhin and Greylog have been dragged away. You are completely alone in the city of Dark Elves. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session.
God
No.
damn it! You couldn't. We had 3 minutes left. You couldn't let us
3 minutes.
at least get a description of the fucking prison.
I knew I should have let that bitch stay dead.
This had nothing to do with her!
I was trying to be nice. I revived her ass.
The fact that
And
She's
she
just doing her
fucking
fucking job. She's just doing her fucking job.
I'm sorry.
Hey.
How did she tell on you?
she told us
Well,
the
one,
thing.
she joined them and came after us, even though she said she wasn't going to come back after us.
Well,
The captain, or was that a captain?
It was just a captain, it wasn't her.
Oh, I thought it was the captain. How was it?
No!
I was a shit.
So, you think she got herself all the way to a temple, healed her wounds, got a new patrol put together, and happened to be there at the exact time you guys set off those blasts?
How do you think she could have done that?
Well, the way he describes this person,
I didn't even describe them. I just said it was you could tell it was a captain.
with a gruff voice, and I thought, oh, she's still injured. Gruff voice.
Wait,
And knew I was a sheep
there can only be one dark elf woman with a gruff voice, apparently.
How did they know that was a shapeshifter?
Because you rolled a 12 on stealth and they rolled a perception of 15.
But I was in the tunnel when I did it.
Yeah, but
You weren't gonna be able to hide in there.
Yeah, and also, in fairness, you said that after I had already made the rolls. So basically, there was already, like, you didn't know that, obviously, but you already weren't going to get away with hiding. And they, basically, because they were already coming in to surround everyone, so they saw you changing your shape. You basically, they saw Gil jump in, and then when they got to the hole, saw or rather not Gil, but they saw Gil jump in, and then saw a dark elf woman where Gil was once standing in the hole. It doesn't take a genius to put 2 and 2 together.
But dark elves are stupid.
They're really not.
They're just assholes.
Most of them are.
They're not stupid. They're just assholes.
If you want to see more of my DMing, check out twitch.tv/Grahamcrackers, GRAMECRACKERZ, for my Friday campaign, The Goldshine Investigations, at 7 o'clock Central Daylight Time, featuring a party of investigators unraveling the cultish conspiracy that threatens to plunge their home into war. Check out our website at officiald5hub.info, resurrected from the grave like a filthy necromancer changing shape in view of the Dark Elves.
No, the filthy necromancer's losing her voice.
Check out our link in chat to join our official D5 Discord server if you want to hang out with us directly, and support our episodes posted on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Google Podcasts, and the iHeart Podcast Network, wherever you happen to get them from. For our audio listeners, catch us live on Mondays at 9:30 Central Daylight Time at twitch.tv/OddTornadoProductions. Check out our YouTube channel of the same name to catch up on whatever you may have missed. Check out Odd Tornado Productions official on Tumblr to find links to our other works, including our freshly recomputered Paladins Twitch channel at twitch.tv/AustinFreak123. If you enjoy what we do, please support us on Patreon. That link we posted in chat. Or on Ko-fi at kofi.com/OddTornadoProductions. And follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/TornadoOdd. The TNO are, in fact, capitalized. If you enjoy this party and want to see more of them, plus or minus a few, tune in tomorrow to catch our Tuesday game of Black Ink and Blue Blood, featuring a party of politicians and nobles working together to unravel the political conspiracy that threatens their home, if they can stop threatening each other long enough to do that. That's about it from me. So, thanks to everybody at the table so much for playing. Thanks everyone at home so much for watching. And we'll see you all next week.
Ooh.